This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Israeli planes attacked a command center headquarters belonging to the Palestinian Ministry of Interior in the center of Gaza City. 30 people were injured in the attack, including a large number of Palestinian civilians. Israeli airplanes conducted another raid on a group of people affiliated with the Quds brigades east of Jabalia. The Hamas movement vowed to resume sacrifice operations inside of Israel in response to the Israeli attack. Meanwhile, according to a spokesman, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas canceled his visit to Gaza for technical reasons.
Calm in Gaza does not last very long. Only a few hours had passed since the Palestinian internal fighting had stopped when Israeli fire resumed, targeting Palestinians in central Gaza. Israeli warplanes carried out a raid on the command center headquarters for the Palestinian Interior Ministry. Tens of Palestinians, mostly civilians, were killed or injured in the attack. The command center building was completely destroyed. The material damages were not limited to just the targeted building, but also included nearby buildings where emergency medical units rushed to the scene due to the extent of the damage. A short time earlier, the Israeli army carried out an incursion a half a kilometer away from Beit Lahia in the northern Gaza Strip. This targeting came after Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert conducted consultations with senior officials and generals, during which he said he gave the green light to the army to carry out a series of operations against command centers, training headquarters, and the people who were behind the launching of missiles on Israel. Despite an agreement between both sides to commit to a ceasefire, the streets of Gaza witnessed limited clashes between the Fatah and Hamas movements after a bloody day on Wednesday. Gaza did not welcome the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who, according to a spokesman, canceled his visit to the Strip for technical reasons.
Israeli tanks took up positions at the border entrances of the northern Gaza Strip. A spokesman for the Israeli army said that 2 missiles that were launched from the Gaza Strip this morning exploded in Israel. However, they did not cause any injuries. The spokesman added that one of the missiles damaged a car and the other landed in an industrial area in Sderot. A source from Hamas and some residents confirmed that the Israeli army attacked an empty Hamas training base in the northern strip. No injuries were reported. Israel also deployed armored vehicles to an uninhabited area near the border.
Gaza witnesses the cruelty of people towards their kin, and Ramallah looks on helplessly as the Palestinian case gets lost between armed groups and gunshots. Our reporter Amani Abu Ghantash reports on Ramallah's painful screams over the events in the Gaza Strip.
What are they fighting over? The leadership of a large prison called Gaza, an illusionary presidency that has neither power nor opinion, or the rule of a people who, along with their leaders, are ruled by the occupation?
It's clear that what's happening in Gaza is based on the political decisions of the two main groups, Fatah and Hamas. This shows that neither party got their anticipated share from the formation of the unity government.
In light of the magnitude of this crisis, a question arises. Has the role of the authorities become simply that of a commentator on events?
Both movements need to inform us who is in charge and who can control the streets. If the people who are making the agreements cannot keep them, then who do we talk to?
Everything needs to be reevaluated in regards to Palestinian internal affairs, not only in the government, but among the factions as well. Enough self-flattery.
The people in charge are helpless, but is there a practical solution to this crisis?
There first needs to be an agreement between the political leaders. Military operations are no more than the translation of political decisions in the field.
Amidst all this, the real victims are the people who pay the price and persist in trying to make their voices heard.
It's saddening and shameful. We are embarrassed from how much we raised our voices and talked.
The situation is humiliating.
The leaders, the analysts, and the citizens all share the same stance, in which even words feel ashamed, for they are no longer capable of describing the heavy burden of the happenings in Gaza. Amani Abu Khantash, Dubai TV, Occupied Ramallah.
أماني أبو هنطش تلفزيون دبي رام الله المحتلة. We begin with the crisis in the south of the country. Israeli aircraft fired missiles at a Hamas compound in the central Gaza Strip. Palestinian sources are reporting that 2 people were killed and over a dozen injured in the airstrike, which came in response to the ongoing barrage of Qassam rockets on Sderot. In a separate move, IDF tanks rolled into northern Gaza today. The army ordered tanks to take up positions several hundred meters inside Gaza near the town of Beit Lahia in an attempt to reduce the rocket attacks.
As mentioned, Qassam rockets continued to bombard Sderot today. At least 13 rockets landed in the beleaguered city. One of them hit a high school near Sapir College, lightly wounding 2 people, sending several others into shock and causing significant damage. This as the disputed evacuation of residents continues. IBA's Eli Wagalanter brings us the details.
For the 3rd consecutive day, the besieged southern city of Sderot was bombarded by Qassam rockets as over a dozen missiles struck across the western Negev. One rocket hit a high school near Sapir College, causing significant damage and slightly wounding 2 pupils. The rocket landed on an unfortified classroom, which was empty at the time. Most schools in Sderot were closed for a 2nd day, and only the students that had to take their matriculation exams attended classes today. Those students were placed in fortified classrooms. The head of the Sha'ar HaNegev local council said that there were still a few classrooms in the school which had not been fortified. A number of Sderot residents are suffering from shock from the continual salvo of the town. Representatives of the Defense Ministry are assisting residents who are interested in leaving Sderot for several days for what is being defined as a respite holiday. Sderot Mayor Eli Moyal is stressing, however, that the town is not being evacuated and that the residents are merely being taken away for 2 to 3 days of vacation. City officials and the Defense Ministry have opened an information hotline for Sderot residents interested in leaving town. Hundreds of citizens have signed up for a program to receive rooms in hostels in other areas of the country. Last night, the Qassam rocket hit a 4-story apartment building in the city, sending several people into shock, while another rocket hit a transformer, knocking out electricity in parts of the city. Eli Wagalanter, IBA News.
The Israeli Authority has decided to force 500 families, including the Matar family, to leave Jaffa. This comes as the Palestinians are commemorating the anniversary of the 1948 Nakba, or catastrophe. Our reporter Rima Mustafa met with members of the Matar family and provided us with the following report.
Memories, memories, memories of what I went through. I held my son Muhammad and put my young daughter Ataf on my shoulder in the middle of the night. May God have mercy on her soul. I held them in my arms and escaped towards the Arab side.
Every time he recalls the Nakba, his eyes become very teary and he loses self-control. In fact, he still does not have self-control over his life. It seems that history is repeating itself because the Israeli authorities decided to evacuate 500 families, including the Matar family, from the Ajami neighborhood in Jaffa city. This old man no longer remembers his childhood because it was overshadowed by the horror of the past. Today, he is also afraid of what lies ahead.
Yes, I have been recalling a great deal of memories because of what happened recently.
His daughter-in-law, Hajar, has lived in the same house along with her husband and sons since 1970. She equates death with the experience of being forced to leave the home where all her sons were born, especially because she had heard horrifying stories about displacement. The pretext that the Israeli authorities are using to justify the decision is that these 500 families, which comprise a population of 2,500 individuals, took over these homes over 50 years ago and built others illegally. However, there are clear economic and ideological motives behind the Israeli decision. Because the Israeli law does not protect its Arab population, their only choice is popular resistance.
From a legal standpoint, we don't have much of an argument because the Israeli law does not protect us. Therefore, we have no other choice but to fight the Israeli decision through popular resistance. This is an act of savageness.
I have explicitly asked for the formation of a joint team with the participation of the Popular Committee and all the organizations that deal with housing in Jaffa. This team then should start a dialogue to find comprehensive solutions.
These families are living in a state of alert, and they confirm their willingness to fight. What the 1948 Palestinians fear the most is reliving the Nakba experience. This minority of Palestinian families who stayed in their homes have been suffering for 60 years from policies of forceful migration, discrimination, and harassment. They have insisted on staying in their homes to maintain Palestinian presence in this land and to keep the Palestinian right of return alive. Rima Mustafa, Al-Arabiya Television, Jaffa City.
A shameful case has been brought against some of the victims of the second Qana massacre. The defendants in this case are accused of forging their injuries and even the death of their families.
Another crime was committed against the victims of the second Qana massacre. The victims received subpoenas to appear before the primary investigative judge in Beirut to face charges stemming from filing false injury claims and collecting 4.5 million Lebanese liras in compensation equivalent to $3,000. Among the victims was Mohammed Qasim Shalloub, who lost his wife, mother, 5 children, and several other relatives in the massacre. Shalloub expressed fear and anger and said that he was also worried of being accused of faking the death of his family and of being asked to return the money, which, in his words, does not compensate for one braid of his youngest daughter's hair.
They targeted us because we supported the resistance. The only thing that we are guilty of is that we sacrificed with our blood for the resistance. We don't have feuds or disputes with Senora. Our only crime is that we came to the aid of the resistance.
If medical reports from government-run hospitals were not sufficient enough to prove the cases of these victims, how is it possible that one can fake his own stroke, as the case was with Muhammad Ali Shalhoub? Shalhoub, who lost his daughter and 2 brothers in the Qana massacre, said that all the money in the world does not compensate for a moment of pain and suffering.
They are hounding those people who supported the resistance and helped it persevere in southern Lebanon. They are doing more than what Israel did to punish the resistance.
I was buried under the rubble for nearly 8 hours. No one was there to rescue me. My head was bleeding and my back and hands were buried under the rubble.
This was a live testimony by Hiyam Hussein Hashim, one of the 5 female victims of the Qana massacre, who also lost her father and 10 of her nephews and nieces. Hashim was covered with blood when she was rescued after spending nearly 8 hours under the rubble.
U.S. Undersecretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs David Welsh left Beirut for New York today. During his visit, which lasted 2 days, Welsh pledged that the U.S. will push for the creation of an international court and urged the Lebanese to elect a new president on time and free of foreign interference. Welsh also pledged that his country will not abandon Lebanon. May Fawaz reports.
His 2-day visit to Lebanon, U.S. envoy David Welsh conveyed to Lebanese leaders the international community's pledge to take decisive action regarding the creation of an international court. He also urged Lebanon to hold presidential elections on time. After meeting with Prime Minister Fouad al-Sanyura yesterday, Welsh said the Lebanese people have a unique opportunity now to take their future in their own hands by electing a new president in accordance with the constitution and free of outside interference. Welsh said that during his meeting with Sanyura, U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice telephoned the Prime Minister, conveying to him her personal support for the government and for Lebanon. Before visiting the Sarai, Welsh made a stop in Ain Tine for talks with House Speaker Nabih Berri. While Welsh did not make any comments after the visit, Berri was reported as having told Welsh that he had been working for months to clinch a national consensus, reiterating that the problem is not the tribunal, but the creation of a government of national unity. After Ain Tine, Welsh held talks with former President Amin Gemayel. There he said that the United States will pressure for the establishment of an international court under UN auspices so that impunity can be stopped. Welsh also met with a number of Lebanese leaders, including Army Commander Michel Suleiman, the head of the Lebanese forces, Samir Jaja, MP Saad Hariri, and MP Michel Aoun. Speaking to AP television, Welsh questioned why Hezbollah wants to possess weapons.
We do not understand what is the purpose of the Hezbollah party having weapons. Precisely what is it that they intend to use these weapons for? The conclusion that many have is that they want to be able to intimidate their way into politics. That's the wrong basis for a political dialogue and result.
The U.S. envoy pledged that the future of Lebanon is not something that is negotiable against other interests the U.S. may have in the area, vowing that the U.S. will not abandon Lebanon.
Minister Manucheh Moteki attended a press conference in Islamabad on Thursday to give more information on Iran-US talks over Iraq's security. Asking about the date of the talks, Moteki had this to say.
This year, they repeated their request officially from the Islamic Republic of Iran to join to that negotiation. And we have accepted. Negotiation is limited to Iraq, in Iraq, and will start in presence of the Iraqis officials. To arrange the substance of this negotiation, it is fixed 28th of May in Iraq to sit and arrange the agenda of such negotiation.
U.S. Ambassador to Iraq, Ryan Crocker, is to lead the American side and said Iran would send a senior diplomat at the level of ambassador as its chief negotiator. Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani, says Tehran is ready to help bring security and stability to Iraq if Washington changes its approach and ends its occupation of the war-shattered country. Addressing a joint press conference Thursday after a meeting with visiting Omani Foreign Minister Youssef bin Alawi, Larijani said, Iran is a powerful country and it is natural to seek its aid in establishment of security in Iraq. Larijani added Iran provided help in the formation of a national government in Iraq, and it is ready to help the strife-torn country re-establish security and stability. Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency Mohammad Al-Baradei says Iran has mastered the necessary knowledge for uranium enrichment. However, it's not a threat to the international community. The IAEA chief told the Spanish daily ABC on Thursday the UN nuclear watchdog has not found any evidence of a smoking gun, proving Iran's nuclear activities have diverted. Al-Baradei once again highlighted diplomacy as the proper channel for settling Iran's nuclear case. An exaggeration made over Iran's nuclear program, the IAEA chief said the US also claimed unfoundedly 4 years ago that Iraq is having a nuclear program for military purposes. The fourth gathering of human rights and religion kicked off on Thursday in the central city of Rome. Cooperation between legislature and rights bodies, as well as the role of NGOs in the development of human rights, came up for discussion at the gathering. Present at the gathering, representative of the UN Development Programme in Iran, Nut Ostby, had this to say over the human rights status in Iran.
There are a number of NGOs, as well as some government organizations who work for human rights improvements in Iran. There has been improvements in legislation. There has been improvements in administrative practices. There has been, for example, access to helplines for children or women who have been exposed to violence. And this kind of things do demonstrate progress. One example where the United Nations is working with Iran is the UNDP project, that the 5-year UNDP project that has helped organize the Conference on Human Rights and Religion here in Qom. It also assists in building capacity with NGOs and with government entities and universities.
Iraqis in Mosaic commemorated the martyrs of a mass murder who were buried alive because of their nationalistic positions at the hands of the former authoritarian regime. The families of the martyrs declared May 16th a day of martyrdom, loyalty, and nationalism.
We are commemorating the martyrs who lost their lives defending the homeland and the bodies that were buried here. We are continuing on the path of the martyrs whose martyrdom had a strong impact on ending the reign of the worst dictatorships in the world.
ليتذكر الشعب العراقي ويتذكر العالم اليوم الذي
The Iraqi people and the world will remember the day these people lost their lives, the day when the dreams and hopes of the Iraqi people were killed. The martyrs rebelled against the tyrant. They did not do anything but express their rejection to unjust policies, the policies of wars, killings, and oppression.
The Iraqis recall May 16th as the day of the mass graves martyrs. This was the end of Iraqis who struggled for freedom. We are commemorating today these heroic martyrs to show our recognition of their sacrifices.
May 16th is a symbol of heroism, sacrifice. On this day, these martyrs tried to save Iraq from the reckless policies of the tyrant regime. This is a day to show appreciation to every drop of blood that these martyrs shed for the sake of Iraq.
Today's commemoration shows that the Iraqi people want to stay united in the face of anyone who wants to bring evil to this country. For Al-Iraqiya channel, Falah Al-Rubi'i, Al-Qut.
قناة العراقية فلاح الربيعي الكوت.
In Sana'a, a special symposium on the role of intellectuals in democratic reform was organized by the Center for Human Rights Information and Training, with the participation of prominent thinkers, writers, and Yemeni and Arab politicians.
The role of Arab intellectuals in creating opportunities for democracy was the focus of discussion in the first session of the symposium, during which a number of questions were raised in the content of the working papers that were presented at the symposium.
The absence of freedom in our Arab societies is the source of backwardness, disagreements, fighting, divisions, frivolous conflicts, and the rise of dictatorships, which usurp human rights, free thinking, and a liberated workplace. This, in addition to foreign intervention, which is antagonistic to the nation, also has led to a decrease in national awareness and education, threatening security, independence, and our national freedoms. This has caused a retreat in our national causes, most importantly, the Palestinian plight, which has remained a bleeding wound in the body of this Arab nation, and we have yet to find an effective and decisive treatment.
The working papers in the first day's session presented a number of suggested understandings of intellectuals and their role in trying to move towards democracy. Several questions were raised about how to define these understandings about democracy, which occupied a large portion of the debates during the symposium.
Democracy is a group of values, means, and mechanisms. Is it a value or a means? Many people believe it is a means. I am one who believes that democracy is both values and means. Is democracy only political, or is it political and social? I think that democracy is both political and social. Politics alone is not enough. Is democracy necessary for change, reforms, and progress? I say yes, but as the traditional expression goes, it is a necessary condition, but this condition alone is not enough. Democracy is required for reform, but alone it is not enough for reform.
Although the issues that were discussed about the challenges faced by Arab intellectuals were too large to handle in this symposium, the organizers hoped to take a step towards defining the identity of the responsible intellectuals whose mission is to create changes in our Arab societies.
I think that we cannot move forward on the path towards democracy without responsible intellectuals who are able to give a progressive opinion about how to get out of this current cycle of backwardness. Intellectuals are always involved in these affairs. We are betting that they will be focused on this in future work with a civic society.
Somewhere in between what has been proposed and reality lies in theory the aspiration of the Arab intellectuals.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only.